Vaishnavesyo Namo Namaha. First of all, I would like to seek the blessings of all the Vaishnavas gathered here. Many of them are my seniors. Some of them are my friends out there, and some I may not even know. But then to speak in the esteemed association of Vaishnavas cannot happen easily without the blessings of Vaishnavas. So I really seek the blessings of all the Vaishnavas to speak a little few words on Mother Sati, the glories of Mother Sati. So I have collected this, selected this particular topic on Mother Sati because generally she is seen in Bhagavatam as a very great personality who has led to very important pastimes in the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam. And also we know that the same Mother Sati happens to be Mother Durga, who's taking care of this material world, this material creation. And she's quite often categorized in the name of or in the category of a demi-goddess, and we really, not so much, try to understand her beyond the Bhagavatam description. So I have kind of divided the entire talk in three sections. The first is about the pastime of Mother Sati. And the third section, I personally wanted to highlight the importance of how we need not get disappointed when we see that we are really not able to cultivate some of the qualities which we have been hearing for so many days now. Like, Bangalore devotees and few devotees from other places who are in the call are really blessed to have, this kind of discussions where we can actually learn about the glorious ladies of our Bhagavatam and of our scriptures, our Vedic culture and heritage. But sometimes it's very disappointing that, where am I and where are they, and when can I really, adopt those qualities in my own life. So just kind of trying to remove, that over expectations from ourselves. I had just made some few points on how we can be realistic in our expectations from our own selves, and while we continue to learn from these great personalities of Bhagavatam. So rather, these great personalities don't become a disappointing figure for us, in the sense, we don't become disappointed when we listen about them. At the same time, we also know where we stand and how we can progress ahead. So that's the third part. So now going to the first part, which is, the story of Mother Sati. She is first introduced in the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam in the 4th canto, where the genealogical table of the Prajapati Daksha is being introduced by Maitreya Rishi to Vidura. So this is the section of Bhagavatam where the conversation between Maitreya and Vidura is going on. So this Mother Sati was especially desired by Lord Brahma to appear on this earth so that she could become the divine consort of Lord Shiva, because it was very difficult to please and become a beloved of Lord Shiva, as we all know his birth history, that he was always full of anger, full of kind of austerity filled mentality, and therefore it was very difficult for anybody to become his consort. And Lord Brahma, desiring for his son, he desired Sati's birth on this planet. And therefore, once upon a time, when Daksha and his queen, one of the queens, Prasuti, desired a daughter, Lord Brahma told them to perform penance on goddess Adi Parashakti. So now this Adi Parashakti is different from the Parashakti that we are aware of in the spiritual world, that is Srimati Radharani. She is Parashakti there, and one of her expansions becomes, Mother Sati, which is Adi Parashakti in this material world, who is the caretaker of this material world. So Daksha and Prasuti, they performed tapasya for quite a long time in the forest, and then they were blessed with this beautiful girl, the same Adi Shakti, and the form of Sati. But when she appears to them, to Daksha and Prasuti, she declares that I would love to remain with you as your daughter. But the day you will insult me, I will give up my body, and I will no longer maintain any connection with you. So which parent would think that they would insult the daughter? So they assume that everything is going to be just fine, and they took up the daughter and they started raising her with a lot of love and affection. Sati, as natural, the reason of her appearance was to attract Lord Shiva. So she happened to hear about the glories of Lord Shiva from sage Narada. And when she heard about Lord Shiva's glories from this particular sage Narada, she already lost her heart to Lord Shiva. And she started contemplating on the glories of Lord Shiva to such an extent that she realized that Lord Shiva is not going to be easily pleased, although he is called Ashutosh, but he is not easily pleased for marriage. He doesn't easily agree for marriage because his main purpose is to meditate. So she decides to give up her royal throne, her royal clothes, her royal luxuries, and goes to the forest, performs penances. Very, very austere penances, is to such an extent that it is mentioned she started living on a leaf every day, a single leaf. And after a few months, she even gave up that. And therefore, one of her names is also Aparna. What does Parna mean? Feather. Like Garud also has this name, Suparnaha. That means one with a very beautiful feathers, right? So even Sati, because she was surviving on just one leaf, and at one point of time, she gave up even that particular leaf, consuming that particular leaf as well. She is also called Aparna. So I personally never knew the meaning of Aparna so far until I got into the details of Mother Sati. So seeing her perform such difficult austerities, Lord Shiva decided to get married to her, right? It's not easy to please Lord Shiva because he himself is an epitome of austerity. So how can he just easily give himself to a queen or a princess who is used to so much of luxuries in life? So Sati had to prove herself that she is quite a compatible wife for her husband, who is also equally minded or equally inclined towards austerities. Although, Sati gave her heart to Lord Shiva, she appeased him. Lord Shiva got pleased with her and decided to marry her. But there was somebody who was not happy, and that was Sati's own father, Daksha. Why Daksha was not happy? Because he belonged to a royal kingdom, and he didn't want to get his daughter married to anybody who does not have any royal touch, because he heard of Lord Shiva as roaming around in the crematorium, having the ghosts and hobgoblins as his devotees, and he smears his body completely with ashes and is always having a snake around him. He does not have a house. He wears a tiger skin. He lives in the mountains. Kailash is his residence. He's actually not fit for being a grahastha. So when Daksha gets to know about this, he's really not very happy. But then, Lord Brahma comes to Daksha and tells him about the purpose of Sati's descent in this planet. And when Daksha hears that, he had no other choice but to get her married to Lord Shiva. So this marriage was something similar to Gandhari's marriage to Dhritarashtra, right? We will try to intertwine many pastimes in between to see how such things have been repeatedly happening and how history repeats itself quite often with different lessons to be learned for all of us. So even when Gandhari married Dhritarashtra, Shakuni was not happy, and therefore he followed the sister, and we know what happened next, right? And the entire Mahabharata, the bit of envy and greed and revenge which was there in Shakuni's heart overpowered, So she was happy with Gandhari's marriage and left the war of Kurukshetra war. Similarly, Daksha was unhappy with Sati's marriage to Lord Shiva, and he did harbor it in his heart. And that's how it led to the failure of Daksha Yajna, right, which comes in the next chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam. So in the Bhagavatam 4th canto, after the Sati's birth, it is explained by Maitreya Rishi while describing about the genealogical table of what the different progenies produced by Daksha's daughters as Prajapatis. And when he comes to this particular daughter of Sati, Maitreya Rishi says that although Sati was the favorite daughter of Daksha, she could not produce any children because she had to give up her body prematurely. And this clicks the attention of Vidura. It catches the attention of Vidura. How come when someone who was so favorite had to give up her body prematurely, and why she did not have any progeny? And that's where the next chapter begins of the second chapter of 4th canto, which is Daksha curses Lord Shiva. And then Vidura inquires about the details of it, that how could Sati give up her life? And Maitreya Rishi begins to explain that how once upon a time, Brahma had conducted a huge sacrifice where all Prajapatis, the gods and the kings and the demigoddesses were invited, including Shiva and Sati. They were all invited. They all were seated in their respective places, and Daksha happened to arrive at the last. So when Daksha arrived at the last, all the demigods and the demigoddesses, including all the kings, they did stand up to show respect to Daksha as one of the senior Prajapatis, except for Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and Mother Sati. So Lord Brahma, being the father of Daksha, need not get up. So, Daksha understood that and he didn't mind it. Sati, being his favorite daughter, he didn't mind she either not getting up. But when Lord Shiva did not get up, because he already had harbored good feelings towards Lord Shiva, he could not take it. And he took this as an insult and he decided to take revenge for it. So immediately he got up from his seat and started blaspheming Lord Shiva. Right from his external appearances of what we just mentioned, that he wears ashes around his body, he wears a tiger skin, and he's always surrounded by these ghosts and hobgoblins. He's considered, he's always surrounded by these inauspicious elements. He does not have a house to live in. So all these externals were like very deeply rooted in Daksha, and therefore he immediately cursed Lord Shiva that hereafter he would not have any oblations of his share in any sacrifice. So now we know when we perform a sacrifice, there are the beneficiaries of the sacrifice. It's like when we want to transfer our money to some bank account, we need the account number to whom we are transferring. Similarly, when the rishis used to perform any yajna, they had to have some beneficiary to whom they would offer the oblations of this particular sacrifice. So every demigod has its share in any sacrifice, and Daksha decided not to offer any share to Lord Shiva hereafter because he felt insulted by Lord Shiva's behavior. But rather it is explained by the Vaishnava Acharyas that Shiva was not intentionally wanting to disrespect Daksha, just that he was absorbed in meditation of Lord Vishnu. And therefore he did not, rise up so as to say to give respect to Daksha. But Daksha took it seriously and he said this curse of, Lord Shiva not going to have any share of oblations hereafter in the sacrifice. When Shiva heard this, he was not affected because as usual, he's Atmaram, he's detached, he's not, bothered by the sukha and dukkha, the curses and the blessings of this world. All he was concerned was about his meditation. But the Shiva servants, which is Nandi and, other soldiers, they really became angry and they counter-cursed Daksha in return. And then the demigods, the sages, Bhrigu Rishi, they all counter-cursed the servants of Lord Shiva, the soldiers of Lord Shiva. And then the servants of Lord Shiva again counter-cursed Daksha. So like this entire sacrifice was completely spoiled and, nobody could have any share. And they all took their holy bath and everybody went back. When Lord Shiva saw this, he was very, very disappointed. Not because he was insulted, but because of him, the entire sacrifice got spoiled, which was meant for the, hita or the which is meant for the kalyan of the entire creation. But anyways, Daksha understood that my father-in-law really doesn't like me. And then after some time, even Daksha desired to host such a sacrifice, such a huge sacrifice as Lord Brahma, especially because he was proud of his position as Prajapati. He really wanted to show that he will prove his curse come true. That is, when he performs the sacrifice, he will not offer oblations to Lord Shiva. And therefore, he had a similar arrangement being made of, like Lord Brahma's. And then he invited all the demigods and demigoddesses, all the rishis, all the kings, all the other Prajapatis, Lord Brahma, everybody, except for Lord Shiva and Sati. And here, Mother Sati, in the Bhagavatam, which goes to the next chapter, which is the 4.3, which is entitled as Talks Between Lord Shiva and Sati. Now, this is a very, natural symptom for a girl when she hears, that her father is arranging something so great, and there's such a big celebration at home, back home. She would want to go. And just very naturally, as a very natural womanly quality, she started speaking to her husband, Lord Shiva. When especially she saw the denizens of heaven flying over the sky, and they were all decked up in beautiful clothes, wonderful ornaments, dazzling, and very excited, very happy in their planes, and they were flying over the arena of Mother Sati, or the house of Mother Sati. They just felt they just felt so excited to go for this particular sacrifice. And Mother Sati got tempted by that, and she very much wanted to join the sacrifice, and especially when she heard the talks of these denizens of heaven. And she requested her husband that, looks like my father is going to arrange a great sacrifice. So is it possible that we could, we could also join the sacrifice? Although we may have not been invited, but then a daughter doesn't need an invitation, right? And if your friend, you don't need an invitation basically to go to the house of a friend, to go to the house of a spiritual master, to go to your, near and dear one's house. So what if my father has not invited? Ultimately, I'm his favorite pet. Why do the near and dear ones need invitation at all? And she also mentions, the Bhagavatam very beautifully describes, she tells Lord Shiva that I know that this entire creation is working upon the interactions of the three modes of material nature. But I am a poor woman. I don't know, these truths. And even if I know, I get carried away by the affection of a woman for her, paternal house. So can we just go to this sacrifice? I'm sure we will have very good time, because all my sisters, all my sisters' husbands, and my mother's relatives, everybody is going to come. It's going to be a very huge function. It's something similar to our, dramas also that happens in our lives as well. But we will talk about that a little later. So when she's very, very dramatically and graphically trying to explain her heart's desire that I really want to go to my father's house because I'm missing all of it, and especially when I can see that everybody is going, right? And Lord Shiva hears her very patiently, and he smiles. At the same time, his heart is pierced, remembering the very harsh words of Daksha, the way he had insulted Lord Shiva publicly. Because we should not forget, in the Brahma's yajna, all the great demigods, demigoddesses, and Prajapatis had come, and right in front of everyone, Daksha had insulted Lord Shiva. So how can somebody have the heart to go to the same person's house? So Lord Shiva really didn't want to go, but then he knew the heart of his wife. So he just spoke, smilingly in a very cool voice. He said, I understand, Sati, that as a daughter, it's very natural for you to, wanting to go to your father's house, and especially when such a big yajna or a sacrifice is being performed, where there is such pompous celebration. But please remember, your father does not like me. And as you said, that we can definitely go to the house of our near and dear ones, like relatives, friends, spiritual masters, etc., even if we are uninvited. But we cannot go to somebody's house where we don't feel we are invited, or where the host raises his eyebrows, looking at the guest. We are definitely not welcome there. And therefore, I suggest you, even though you're the favorite daughter of Daksha, it wouldn't be good for you if you go there. So please listen to my advice and don't try to go there, because it will not be good for you, because you're connected to me. Now, Lord Shiva, he did not want to, Sati, he did not want to bereft Sati of the happiness of going to mother's house, but he knew what would happen, because her father did not appreciate her. And because of her connection with Lord Shiva or himself, he knew that the consequences are going to be very bad if Sati just drops in without the invitation, especially when we don't know whether Daksha wanted us to have or not. But Sati was not convinced by these arguments by Lord Shiva. And at the end, therefore, Lord Shiva says, I have tried my best to make you understand. Ultimately, it's your choice. I think that's the ultimate Ramban everybody has, that I have explained, and now it's up to you. So Sati is walking back and forth, holding her fingers and, having the, really very tense atmosphere or tense feelings going on inside her. And finally, she decides, looking at Lord Shiva, that he's not going to budge, and he's not going to give me the permission wholehearted. Neither is he going to accompany me, right? So better I just go by myself, because if that desire is so much within my heart to go to my parents' house, let me just go. And Lord Shiva again just reminds her in the last saying that at this point of time, you are more of my wife than Daksha's daughter. And you should remember that relationship. But Sati, because she was so overpowered by this desire to, visit her father's house, and especially when there was such a big celebration going on and she was not personally present and she was missing out on that socializing aspect, she knew that she was not doing the right thing. Why? Because she was very much, attached to Lord Shiva as well. And she knew what her father did in the last yajna was not the right thing. But, ultimately a woman's heart, or, a heart which is ruled by affection for somebody, it will not have, the logical understanding. So carried away by that desire to visit her father's house, she just starts walking towards her father's house. And when Lord Shiva sees that Sati is not going to listen to me, he immediately sends his soldiers along with Nandi for the protection of Sati along with her, that at least she should not be going all alone by herself to her father's house. We don't know what's going to happen there. So when all the soldiers and when all the servants of Lord Shiva accompany Sati, and Sati with her, dwindled or, a very tensed mind or kind of confused mind, very bewildered, that kind of, duality still being there in her, that what I did, is it right or wrong? Should I go back or should I go to my father's house? But anyway, she was walking ahead. And as soon as she reached the house of her father, she saw that it was such a great celebration with all the pompous, articles around, and the rishis singing mantras, and all the walls being decorated beautifully, the fire of Homa coming up, the sages reciting, such wonderful mantras of the scriptures, and everybody was so joyous for participating in that yajna. And as soon as she entered, Daksha observed her but did not welcome her. He neglected her. He acted as if he didn't see her. He actually neglected her. And then Sati went a little bit more inside, but the mother and the sisters, how could they resist the heart, their own heart, which is filled with affection for Sati? So they immediately went and embraced Mother Sati. Mother Sati also equally exchanged the feelings with her mother and sisters, and she saw that none other than her mother and sister would rise up to show respect to Sati. None other than her mother and sisters would actually acknowledge the presence of Sati out of fear of Daksha, because Daksha was very clear that she's not going to be acknowledged in this assembly because she's connected to Lord Shiva. And with this feeling, kind of coming in towards her, and she's sensing these kind of unwelcomed, vibrations all around, she really got angry, and she waited for some more time. And the mother of Prasuti, she tried to offer some gifts which are to be offered to the daughter when she comes to the mother's house, but Sati refused to take them because she knew that she was not welcome there. And as soon as she understood this, she was like out of her senses, and it really made her angry when she saw that Daksha did not even put aside the share of oblations for her husband, the due share of oblations for her husband. And he did not even speak one single word towards her own daughter, just because he's envious or he's not happy with Lord Shiva. And this made her so furious, that right in the middle of the yajna, she got up and she said, "Oh Daksha, you who are, blinded by your materialistic possessions and positions, you are not able to recognize the glory of Lord Shiva. That Lord Shiva who's considered to be all auspicious, who's considered to be the most compassionate because he gives shelter to those who are rejected by others, even the other demigods, like, the ghosts, hobgoblins, and the skulls, etc., etc. Even such personalities are given shelter by this great Lord Shiva. Because you're so much surrounded by, or your attitude is so much based on externals, and you judge success based on externals, you are not able to recognize the glory of Lord Shiva. And therefore, I hereafter reject the existence of mine, because I'm connected with you, or I want to give up this body of mine because it is connected with you." And saying this, she immediately makes a fire and put her body ablaze. Right? She sets her body to fire, and then she gives up her body. So this is how the entire, purpose of Mother Sati's visit to her father's house was destroyed. And as soon as she entered, she actually realized it, that she made the greatest mistake. But because she was carried away by that affection for her father, she actually ended up in such a situation. And after this, for which we wouldn't go into detail because our story gets limited to Mother Sati, and the story goes very beautifully ahead, that how when the servants of Lord Shiva, they see that Mother Sati has given up her body, they become very angry and they decide to destroy the sacrifice completely. And then somebody breaks Dugu's, somebody burns somebody's beard, somebody breaks someone's teeth because they were laughing, or somebody's breaking somebody's legs and hands. And like this, the entire Sabha gets completely destroyed, so much so that Lord Shiva, when he gets to know about Sati's giving up her body because of the insult she had to go through, he immediately takes up, a strand of his hair, puts on the ground. Veerbhadra comes and he beheads Lord the Prajapati Daksha. And then Lord Shiva becomes so angry and so frustrated with the whole incident, and he really repents for Mother Sati going there, that he actually takes the body of Mother Sati, which was like half burnt, and he actually takes the body of Mother Sati, goes around this entire world, the Bharat Varsha at that point of time, what it was called. He goes around the entire creation, and wherever he was going around with her body, it is said it was creating like a Tandav effect. And Lord Vishnu understood, if Shiva continues like this is not going to be safe for this creation. Prematurely the creation would come to an end. And so therefore to different pieces, and it would be put into different places as her remnants, and that is what we know as Shakti Peeth, right? Which generally as Vaishnavas we don't get into, but then this is the reason behind the Shakti Peeth, why they are empowered, because it is said Lord Shiva, in separation from his own wife and in anger of her insult, when he was going around, wherever the parts of Mother Sati felt, they became Shakti Peeth, and one of them is also Jagannath Puri. And we have many places in India all over. It is said there were about 56 or 54, Shakti Peeths all over India, and there Mother Durga is worshipped very prominently. And then ahead we see that how when Lord Shiva was in so much of distress after giving up the body of Mother Sati, Lord Brahma comes and pacifies Lord Shiva, and he requests Lord Shiva not to take the insult of Daksha so seriously, because ultimately Daksha is still bound by this, the kind of three modes. He was overpowered by the royal kingdom and the royal position, and therefore he was blinded by all this. So he better not take his insult so seriously. And Lord Shiva immediately agrees to forgive Daksha, and he says, please bring the head of the goat. And then he tries to fix it, the head of the goat on Daksha, and revives his life. And that's when Daksha understands his folly, what he actually did. The same person whom he was feeling envious of based on his externals, the same person had the power to kill him. What the same person? What to speak of the same person? His own servant, which he could create from the strand of his hair, had the power to behead him. And the same master, Lord Shiva, had the power to bring him back to his life. So when Daksha understood the strength and the power of Lord Shiva and the folly that he made in all his pride, all his ignorance, all his ahankar became chaknachur, or what we call it, powdered into pieces. And when it got powdered into pieces, he submitted himself to Lord Shiva. And then when he organized the sacrifice, he also offered oblations to Lord Shiva. So this is in short the story of the entire Mother Sati. But now what we learn from this particular pastime of Mother Sati, so generally we see when we hear of these pastimes, and especially when you go into very details of the kind of dialogues Mother Sati has with Lord Shiva, and the way she expresses so helplessly her heart's desire to go and visit her mother's house, and Lord Shiva is not understanding what could be the consequence. He was not ready to leave Mother Sati or give her wholeheartedly permission. We try to understand that how common this is even in our lives, especially as ladies, right? We all go through this at one point or the other. Some must have gone through it in the newly married days, some must have gone through it during the middle phase of their married life, and some may be yet to go through it. In fact, I know a couple who's going through this during the fag end of their life, where the husband is saying, go to your mother's house and get this and get that. Or, the husband is saying, your father does not respect me, and therefore you're never allowed to go there. You're never allowed to participate in it. Also, the case is not their personality. Whatever happened to them, and that is dramatic and very graphical explanation of women's emotions, weakness, so-called weaknesses, sometimes overpowered by our emotions, and our energy, desire, our innocence, our affection, our repentance, whatever it may be. Sometimes it looks like, they also exhibited similar emotions, but it's not the case. When they go through it, it has a lot of lessons meant for us in it. And that's what we are supposed to learn and try to avoid in our own lives, whatever could be avoided because of our own weaknesses. So the first thing that Daksha, about Daksha especially, that Daksha had a lot of pride because of being a Prajapati. And he actually forgot that the same creator who created him has also created Lord Shiva. And he did not understand the glory of Lord Shiva, that he, Prajapati, Daksha would be one of the Prajapatis, but Lord Shiva is actually responsible as one of the, universal leaders. Of course, Daksha is also one of the universal leaders, but Lord Shiva is responsible for the mode of ignorance, is almost equivalent on the position of Lord Brahma and Lord Vishnu, right? So he kind of undermined the position of Lord Shiva based on his external. Because he did not have the same feelings towards Lord Brahma and Lord Vishnu, because they were all like well dressed and they were living with the wives, they had their lokas and they had their palaces, and they were very busy maintaining the, managing the universal affairs. So he thought, this is what a leader is, a universal leader is supposed to be. But he could not see Lord Shiva as the universal leader. So therefore, it was very difficult to see Lord Shiva as a great personality because he was going on Lord Shiva's externals. So this is the greatest mistake many times we make, even after coming into Krishna consciousness. We start judging others' devotion based on their externals. How she's sitting, how she's carrying herself, how she speaks, she is not really very sophisticated, the way she talks, the way she walks, or the way she chants, or the way she cooks. So things like this, there could be so many other things that we must be judging devotees, based on their externals. Something similar happened even with Pundarik Vidyanidhi, right? When he was sitting on that grand throne, and he had servants all around him fanning him, and he was and when Mukunda comes along with Gadadhar Pandit thinks this cannot be a Vaishnava, so much in opulence. And as soon as Mukunda sees that Gadadhar Pandit is having such kind of thoughts about Pundarik Vidyanidhi, and he's trying to judge him, he's not understanding the position of Pundarik Vidyanidhi, who he is actually. And then Mukunda starts singing the beautiful verses from Srimad Bhagavatam. And as soon as Pundarik Vidyanidhi hears these beautiful verses from Srimad Bhagavatam, he starts dancing in ecstasy. And that's when Gadadhar Pandit realized that I was unnecessarily judging this personality from his externals, by going on his externals. I made a big mistake, and therefore he immediately decides to take initiation from Pundarik Vidyanidhi. The same person whom he offended, he decided to take initiation from him to repent for his own mistake and understanding the greatness of the person. Similarly, we also see with Daksha that he also, a kind of insulted Lord Shiva, judging him based on his externals and the kind of lifestyle Lord Shiva has, without actually knowing the depth of Lord Shiva's existence, which was nothing but meditation on Lord Sri Ram. As we all know, Vishnu Sahasranam, where Lord Shiva tells Mother Parvati, you have always asked me who's the person I meditate upon, what do I do meditation for? So it is only on this particular personality called Lord Sri Ram. And then we know Sri Rama Rama Rameti Rame Rame Manorame. So he says that this is the personality I meditate upon. So similarly here also Daksha, when he offended Lord Shiva by judging him, by seeing his externals without realizing the inside substance, he actually had to go through so much of purification of giving up his own body, or at least the body of a human, or the head of a human. And then ultimately the same person revived his life, just like how Pundarik Vidyanidhi, initiated Gadadhar Pandit. And the same person had to, Daksha had to submit to the same person whom he was envious of. So this is the first lesson that we learn, that how one should not be externally judging the devotees. Many times it happens when we see, like I'll tell my own example. I have seen one very senior devotee, not a sannyasi or a GDP, but a very senior devotee having, devotees carry her shoes, and the shoes were brought, and and she was putting, and quite like not at the stature of a sannyasi. So we have generally seen sannyasis being served like that. So then I was thinking, oh my God. And then when I immediately tried to recollect, no, I'm not supposed to judge this way. So many a times we do have certain circumstances where we try to judge the person. On the day of Nirjala Ekadashi, somebody's eating, we think, oh, he's in Maya. See how he's eating all day. Or if somebody's sleeping in chanting, see, he's in Maya, she's in Maya, how she's sleeping in chanting. She cannot even pronounce the mantras properly. She cannot repeat the pastimes properly. See, what kind of a devotee she must be, what she must be actually doing. But that's all externals, right? As we see that, Lord Shiva is not to be seen by his externals. He's actually a man of deeper substance. There, if you see in his heart, there is only one word existing, which is Ram, upon which he meditates. So this is the first lesson we learn from Daksha. And when he got overpowered by that attitude of, he being the supreme, or when he got overpowered by his own pride, he could not see anybody lower than him as respectable, just like Lord Shiva. And therefore, being carried away by that attitude of aham mameti, or I, me, mine, see my royal position, my royal, rule, and I am so great, I am a Prajapati, I live in such a palace, and I am performing that yajna. He just could not see that in that flow of envy, he actually is about to lose his own daughter. So when we are covered by ignorance, more than ignorance, when we are covered by our ahankar, we actually cannot see what we are losing. And we come to our senses only after having lost it. But that's too late, right? So much so that Daksha had to lose his own daughter. Even when Sati was trying to put her body to fire, put herself ablaze, Daksha not even came once to stop her. He was so much covered by his ahankar of, being proven superior to Lord Shiva. He said, anything with Lord Shiva has nothing to do with me. So even if his own daughter was ready to give up his life, he had absolutely no problem with it. So to that extent, Daksha got covered by his ignorance. And we may know that we will not lose something so, gross like this. I mean, if somebody is losing their life, we would definitely go and stop them. But we may be losing some very, very special treasures of our Krishna consciousness, what we must have earned for so many years by our practice, by our sincerity, by our services, by the blessings, by the, of my track. I'm back. I'm sorry about the internet disturbance. So as we were discussing about the second aspect, that how when we are blinded by our ahankar, we just don't realize what we are losing. And something similar also happens with Hiranyakashipu and Prahlad, right? He was so much overpowered or blinded by his own supremacy that he just did not want to accept. He accepted Vishnu, but not as supreme or superior to him, right? So even he did not mind losing his own son Prahlad Maharaj. But the very same children, like Prahlad Maharaj to Hiranyakashipu, or Sati to Daksha, the very same children became the reason of their purification. Right, so that is the power of these great personalities. That even when they are trying to sacrifice themselves, or when they are undergoing some austerities, they actually become instruments to deliver their own dependence, which is like how Hiranyakashipu became liberated because of Prahlad Maharaj, and how Daksha became liberated or purified because of Mother Sati. So this was the next lesson that we learned, that how we should not be getting carried away by aham mameti. And then the next lesson that we learned, which is very, very relevant to all of us, is about the experiences of the ladies, which Mother Sati depicts very beautifully here, that how she was kind of carried away by her affection towards her parents' paternal house, and she did not really pay any attention to Lord Shiva's work, although she was confused inside, but she could not take that strong decision. Hare Krishna, am I audible?
Yes, Mataji.
Yes, Mataji.
Yes. Okay, fine. Because I see the. Okay. So she depicted or kind of exhibited these emotions, which generally we women exhibit, where she felt that I want to go to my father's house because everybody else is going and my husband is not happy, still I want to go. So these were the things which we also generally experience. So from this we learn that how many a times Krishna, the spiritual master, the scriptures, and most of our seniors around us do caution us, at times, not to fiddle with Maya, or not to get carried away by our, weaknesses. Just like Mother Sati, how she got carried away. But when we don't pay attention to their advices or their words of caution, what happens is we end up like being in the position of Sati. We have full confidence that my father will not mistreat me, my father will respect me, It's just that my husband is not able to understand it. So what? My father must have insulted him once, but still my father loves me. I am his favorite. He would not do anything unfavorable to me. We are so confident of entering into that field that we really tend to ignore the words of our seniors. We tend to ignore the words of our spiritual master or guru, sadhu, shastra, or the scriptures, and we try to give in our weaknesses, and we actually become ending up at times complacent in our bhakti because of our weakness. We are not careful of our offenses, or we start criticizing. We develop temptations or the possible distractions, and we get carried away by all these weaknesses when we don't hear the instructions of our seniors or the spiritual master or the scriptures around us for our own benefits, for the sake of our own bhakti. At times we feel maybe मैं इतना करके आ जाऊंगी, I'll just do this much and I'll come back. I'll go for one movie maybe, and then I'll come back and take initiation and never watch a movie, right? So something, it could be anything, so which we are not able to follow very strongly right from the core of our hearts, but it is very important for our sincere practice of bhakti. And if we don't have that strength, we sometimes feel maybe I'll go a little bit there and come back. I'll just touch a little bit there and come back. I'm sure I'm not going to get carried away. Maybe I'll just straighten my hair once and I'll feel, okay, that's it now. It's just an example. I mean, I'm not against straightening hair, but the simple example of, how we can get carried away when we actually forgot our limits of being carried away. And that's what exactly happened with Mother Sati, that, she was very confident that she would receive the same, respect that she had earlier in her house, but she could not. And she ended up in a very miserable situation to the extent that she had to give up her life. But only when we enter into such temptations in the name of, I'm still chanting my rounds, right? What will happen? So what if I watch a one day? So I don't see 1 month, or if I don't see people for 1 month. You may think, that these could be small things. Actually, they are weaknesses of heart which does not allow us to, understand the Maya around us. And when we actually do these things in temptations, we give into these temptations without paying any heed to the cautions of our, seniors, of the spiritual master and the scriptures. Only when we get into it, we realize what we are into, right? And then it is so difficult to come out of it because it becomes a habit. And we don't have that backup power of our spiritual master, of the prayers and the blessings of the Vaishnavas, then definitely it's like, a quicksand. We are just going to go deeper and deeper and deeper. Very difficult to come out. And then at that point of time, the damage is already done, right? We have lost the precious time of performing bhakti. And just like how Sati already, the damage was done because she was insulted and she did not want to associate with that body anymore. And that time we sit and repent, right? Why did I do this? Why did I not listen to my, the good words of advice coming to me from my seniors? And by then it's too late. But at least when we start repenting, like how Mother Sati, in fact, in the verses of Srimad Bhagavatam, it is explained, when she understands quite clearly the mentality of Daksha, she very boldly speaks. It is said that when one, hears insult towards her master or his master, one should either, cut off the tongue of the person and kill him, or kill oneself. And if one does not have the power to do that he can kill the other person who's blaspheming, and then later on kill oneself. If one does not have that power, one should leave the place immediately. Harsh words. So then she says, I cannot kill you, because you have given birth to me, but at least I can kill myself, because I had to hear and I had to see the insult towards my husband, and therefore she gives up her body. So she genuinely repents. So similarly here also, when we kind of realize our folly of, drifting away a little bit in Krishna consciousness in the name of relaxing, because Maya is very strong. She's just waiting for us one small, diversion here and there. It's like when the planes, when they fly high up in the sky, it just takes a small deviation from, the radar to end up in a different destination. So similarly here also, Maya Devi is just waiting for us, to commit a little mistake, or waiting for us to give in to a little distraction, and then she will quickly absorb us like a quicksand. And we all know the power of Maya, this famous Brahmana who was very pakka in doing his Gayatri, and he was a Dvija, or a second initiated Brahmana, and he was chanting, he's doing his Sandhya Vandanam 3 times a day. But one day it so happened that he could not get up in the evening because he was not well. And when he had taken rest in the afternoon, the time had already passed, and by evening, it was time for his Sandhya Vandanam. And, he suddenly thought that he suddenly had a kind of a vision in which, a very great lady, great demigoddess came to him and said, "It's time for your Sandhya Vandanam. Get up, come on, perform your Sandhya Vandanam." And then the person immediately got up, felt so thankful to that mother, and he felt, "I'm so grateful to you that you're helping me to perform my duties." He went, took his bath in the Ganga, and came back and performed his Sandhya Vandanam. And after performing Sandhya Vandanam, he actually felt so grateful to this, personality who reminded him. And he asked, "Who are you, my dear mother? How could you remind me of, my duties?" So she said, "I am Maya Devi." She actually speaks, as Akashwani, "I am Maya Devi." And the Brahmana was shocked. He said, "Maya Devi? As Maya Devi, you are supposed to keep us away from our, spiritual duties. How is it that you're helping me to perform my spiritual duties?" And Maya Devi says, "You have been so pakka, or you have been so perfect in execution of your Sandhya Vandanam that you have never made any mistake, right? And if you would have missed Sandhya Vandanam for today, you would have had guilt that you missed your Sandhya Vandanam. And that guilt would have helped you to advance in your Krishna consciousness or in your spiritual life. And how can I let you advance in your spiritual life? Because that's my duty, to pull people down, to not allow them to, become very sincere in Krishna consciousness. Not in a negative term. We need not take this very negatively, because generally we think, why Maya Devi has to perform such tasks. So I just give a very quick and simple example about this. I'll come back to this story, but I don't want, to pass a wrong understanding about Maya Devi. As we all know, in Simantadweep also, Maya Devi prays to Gauranga that, "How come, I am performing such a helpless task? My duty is to, keep the aversion, keep the living entities of this material world who are averse to you away from you, right? And the living entities who are envious towards you, I am supposed to keep them down." Right, so that's a thankless task. Can you please give me some blessing by which I can constantly, get some mercy from you? And that's when Lord Gauranga blesses her that you may continue to live in this Simantadweep, and you'll also remain as Rauda Maya in this Navadweep and watch my pastimes. So Maya Devi's task is a very thankless task. It's something like, when suppose 1 lakh, suppose there are 10 lakh students who are appearing for this competitive exam. Now most of our children are in like 10th, 12th, and these are the times when we appear for these competitive exams. So when suppose 10,000 students or 1 lakh student appear for that in the first round, then we know only 10,000, are selected for the next. And from the 10,000 in the next round, only 1,000 are selected. And from 1,000 in the next round, only 100 are selected. So why is this so? Not that the government wants to pull everybody else down, and make them feel you are good for nothing and see you have failed and I don't want you to progress in life. Not like that. Government wants only those few candidates who are like really capable and, really intelligent and who are really worthy of that position of IAS or whatever the other posts, for which the competitive exams are being held. So that is the purpose of the government, not that she wants to demean the other people who have appeared for the exam. So similarly, here also Maya Devi, when she is trying to, test us at different times of our bhakti, it is not that she is envious towards us or she is our enemy. In fact, she is giving us those tests only to see whether we are fully qualified to still go to Krishna without any desire for material existence or material sense gratification, as Rupa Goswami says, ahai tukyan apratihata. Are we really ready for that? Are we ekena manasa, tivrena bhakti yogena? That are we really focused with one pointed attention only towards Krishna? That is her test. Is there little pride in us? Then we are cut. If there is little envy in us, then we are cut. If there is little competitive mentality in us, then we are cut. And if we have affection like Mother City, going here and there, and I want this palace and I want that palace, I want this car and that car, I want bhakti also, I want material life also, I want children also, and I want them to be known as pure devotees also, and I want best husband also. So if you want everything of this material world, then Maya Devi says, sorry, then you don't deserve Krishna, right? Because that's the price one has to pay to be belonging to Krishna, Akinchana Gochara, as Kunti Maharani says, right? You are the property of Akinchana, one who do not have anything. So that's why that is the role of Maya Devi. Not that she's playing a very cruel master player, She's not like that. She's just trying to filter the, devotees at different levels to see who is actually focused with one pointed focused attention on Krishna. So that's her role. So this Brahmana, when he says, when he hears this, that actually it was Maya Devi and she did not want me to have guilt in my heart, by which I would advance in my spiritual life, and that's why she came and reminded me, so that I just don't miss any Gayatri, and I continue to have the pride of not missing any Gayatri. So every time I chant my Gayatri mantra, I try to remind this story to myself. There's nothing to be proud of, because even Krishna does not appreciate pride in the heart of his devotees. Right? When Krishna, the very purpose Krishna descended to this material world is to, of course, dharma samsthapana and killing demons, all that is there, but to perform loving exchanges, loving pastimes with his devotees, with the gopis of Vrindavan. And that's the crest jewel of all his pastimes. So when Krishna comes and performs Ras Leela with the gopis, and when he sees that there has been this pride, a tinge of pride in the heart of the gopis, and Krishna says, I'm not meant for you, or you are not meant for me, rather. And he just disappears. And when he just goes with Srimati Radharani, lifting her up, and the gopis are following behind, and when he sees that even Radharani had developed that tinge of pride in her, just a speck of, like, Chintamani dust, just a speck of that pride in her heart, Krishna disappears from her as well. And all the gopis along with Radharani keep looking for Krishna. So Krishna is actually trying to teach us through these pastimes that where can he be seated, or rather, the thrones of our heart should be completely clear of all these conditionings, or all these dirt, which is abhadrani in the heart. Only then Krishna feels free, or rather he feels, very blissful to be seated in our heart. So Krishna does not appreciate that. So this is the importance of repentance, which Mother Sati also had, and that's why in her repentance she gave up that body. In fact, one of the senior Matajis from Gopinath, she had mentioned this, that guilt is the appearance of Krishna in our life. It's a very, very powerful statement. Or appearance or guilt is the interference of Krishna in our life. I'm sorry. It's appearance also, maybe you can take it that way, but originally the statement is guilt is the interference of Krishna in our life, because guilt gives us an opportunity to repent genuinely, by which we shed the tears, and those tears attract Krishna's mercy, not crocodile tears, but the genuine repentance of tears attract Krishna's mercy. And therefore, when Mother Sati repented, and when Daksha repented later on, much ahead in the chapters of Srimad Bhagavatam, we see that, Lord Shiva was actually pacified, and he rewarded Daksha back his life. So similarly here also, as Mother Sati repented, we also need to repent whenever we get carried away like that, because as I said, Maya is very strong, and these filters are going to be there at every step. And it's our, we cannot escape these steps, because we have to prove, not necessarily in terms of like proving materially, but then, yes, we have to show that we are really sincere, and with one pointed focused attention, we are marching ahead towards Krishna. But that means not getting distracted. That means not giving into temptations. That means being alert and adhering to the instructions of the spiritual master, to the instructions of the scriptures, being extra careful and extra alert in our spiritual life. And when we repent like that, that's when we are blessed with purification, and which is what happens with Mother Sati, because she feels that she was completely contaminated because of her connection with Daksha. For his enmity towards Lord Shiva, she decides to give up that contaminated body and in fire. And as I said, these are not ordinary personalities. This entire, drama, or the dramatic episode looks like we also go through this. Our husbands may get angry when we go to a mother's house, or they may not be gelling with them, or our mothers will have certain things for our husbands, and so this looks to be very, very mundane, but actually these personalities are teaching us lessons, not only while going through these emotions and episodes, but also through the results, or to the end results. Like, for example, when Mother Sati, when she repents, what we see, she's such a great personality that on the basis of her chastity, on the basis of her, focused submission towards Lord Shiva, she could give up her body. Now, how many of us can do that? Right? Even if we think we have committed some mistake, what is the maximum limit of our repentance? At the most, cry tears. That too, if it's really a very grave sin that we have committed, we may get some tears out of our eyes. Otherwise, those also don't come, right? Like sometime back we were discussing, like Mahaprabhu says, Nayanam galada shrudharaya vadanam gadgada hridaya gaya. So he says that, whenever I chant these holy names, the tears roll down my cheeks. So we were discussing with few Matajis, and there we were sharing that at least, Mahaprabhu is crying while chanting the holy names, but at least we should be able to cry some tears saying, Krishna, when will I get some taste for holy names? right? That should be our worry. Mahaprabhu is crying out of prem, but we should be crying for not having that prem, right? So these tears really play a very important role. But again, to be very cautious, if these are not artificial crocodile tears that we're talking about, it should be genuine repentance from our heart, which actually attracts Krishna's mercy. So Mother Sati was so repentful that she immediately decided to give up her body. But we may not be able to do that. At the most, we may cry some tears or really genuinely feel repentant and take up some measures to repent for our mistakes. So that is the great power of Mother Sati, that because of her chastity, because of her submission towards Lord Shiva, even though she was kind of, little divided between her, maternal affection and, her affection for the husband, she finally did what was required to be done. And she cleared herself of the contamination that came because of her connection with Daksha. And just to remind you, in the beginning of the discussion, we had said that when Adi Parashakti appears to Daksha and Prasuti, she tells, that the day you will insult me, I will disappear, right? And when the parents had thought, who would insult a daughter, right? But see, as the days progress, because of our achievements, because of our accomplishments, we never know which kind of glassware we would have on our eyes, and we may not be able to see things as they are. And Daksha, indeed, as per the words of Adi Parashakti or Sati, she made this statement true, and Daksha did insult her, and Mother Sati had to give up her life, and then we also know in the future that how she comes up as Mother Parvati, born to Himavan, and then again she appears in 6th canto where Chitraketu is passing by over the sky, and again carried away by that a small weakness of the heart. So these qualities are generally attributed mostly to women, but it's not that it is attributed only to the body as a woman, but it's generally attributed to Prakriti, right? So it's very natural for a conditioned living entity who's covered by ignorance, his own sense gratification, his desire for own sense gratification. It's very natural to kind of exhibit these weaknesses. But these personalities are teaching us how we can avoid them, especially when we hear these pastimes, and even when we try to give in to these situations by mistake or because of our own strong conditionings or weaknesses, then how one should behave, how one should have genuine repentance so that one can revive oneself of the contamination or purify oneself of the contamination. So this power of submission to Lord Shiva actually allowed her to repent completely, and she could completely give up her body. And as Mother Parvati, she again performed tapasya, and she again appeased to Lord Shiva to accept her as his wife. And that's when Lord Shiva again accepts Mother Parvati, and then the story goes ahead. So this is the kind of a story and the lessons, the pastime and the lessons that I wanted to focus. The next two parts, I'm sure it would get late by now, but then the next two parts, which were basically of how Mother Parvati exists in this material world as well. Maybe I'll just quickly take it up if time permits. But basically, the same Mother Parvati expands as Mahamaya in this material world. So when Krishna has to create a separate playground for the rebellious living entities, but His Holiness Bhakti Charu Maharaj was explaining this. When we desire to enjoy separately from Krishna, then Krishna says, it is not possible in Golok Vrindavan, right? So now you have to go to some other place. So that's your playground. Do whatever you want to play with, do whatever you want to do, and play around whatever you want to play with, your desires, others' desires, and your desire to become the ruler, the controller. That's your playground, the material world. So when He creates that material world for us as a playground, somebody has to be in charge of this material world, right? And that's how, through the power of Lord Shiva and Mother Parvati, He actually makes Mahamaya responsible for this entire existence of material world. And we see this how Mother Parvati, she is not only as a Durga for this material world, as Srila Prabhupada explains, but she also acts as the creator, maintainer, and destroyer. So Mother Parvati is such a beautiful, and Parvati or Sati, whatever you call her, but she is such a beautiful personality, or rather, through this entire meditation or contemplation on her personality, I could see that she's such a complete personality, that she's a wholesome personality. She's not just highlighting only one aspect of womanhood where she's chaste, or where she is kind of adamant at times, or where she is kind of getting carried away by her weaknesses of affection, etc., etc. But she's just showing the complete personality of a woman. Where it is required to be strict, she is strict. where it is required to be speaking, truth, she's speaking like to her father. Where it is required to arouse her, power of submission, power of chastity, and use it in her own favor of purifying herself. She's using that. And as Mother Parvati, when she comes to this material world, how she acts as the creator, as we all know, the second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam talks about how Lord Vishnu, through the agency of, Shambhu Tattva or Lord Shiva, he tries to glance, he glances on Prakriti, which is like, none other than Mahat Tattva, and then, the ingredients inside get agitated, and then the creation manifests, right? So like that, Mother actually, Parvati or Mahamaya or Mother Durga or Mother Parvati, whatever you call her, she actually is the creator of this entire material universe. She is in the form of Prakriti. She gives us this body by which we can perform Krishna consciousness. She gives us this planet Earth, which helps us to survive this body. She gives us the food to eat. She gives us, our sthanam or our place to perform our duties, etc., etc. So everything that we are using and living on, is being created by Mother Parvati or Mother Durga, and Mother Sati or Parvati acts as the role of a creator. She's also the maintainer of this, entire creation. So we know this beautiful pastime of course, we know how she maintains in terms of Mother Nature, but this beautiful pastime, just to personalize it a little further, that how Mother Parvati, when she heard that Lord Shiva had this fortune of, tasting a drop of or a little morsel of Lord Vishnu's Mahaprasad, when he saw Narad Muni dancing in ecstasy after honoring that Mahaprasad, Lord Shiva also was blessed with just a little speck of Mahaprasad, and he started performing Tandavritya, out of ecstasy. Imagine, Lord Shiva is anyways known for the dance of destruction. So if he comes into ecstasy, out of ecstasy he can destroy something, right? Sometimes it happens. We need not destroy something only when when we are angry. We also destroy at times in our ecstasy also. Like I remember opposite we have, two children, and when the younger one, when he's really in ecstasy, he takes things around in the house and goes goal, 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 goal. He goes circling around. So once an electrician had put up a tube light connection in his house, and that outside putha, the cardboard of the tube light, so he took around that tube light cardboard and, the cover, and he started going around in the house in his play after the light was put and everything was done. And that became his plaything. And when he was going around playing it, around the house, so the tube light cardboard went and hit the watch, and the watch fell on the table, dham, and the watch broke and the table broke. And then he got nice beatings from his mother. So why I share this is because sometimes in our ecstasy also, not in our ecstasy, but Lord Shiva in his ecstasy actually caused, a lot of destruction. So Mother Parvati went and stopped him, because all the demigods became fearful that looks like prematurely the world is going to come to an end. It's not the time for annihilation. Is it the end of Brahma's day, or is it the end of Brahma's life? It's nothing like that. So then why is, Lord Shiva dancing like this? So they all approach Mother Parvati, and Mother Parvati goes to him, appeases him. And when Lord Shiva shares that I have got this little bit of, I got this fortune of tasting Lord Vishnu's Mahaprasad, Mother Parvati says, where is it for me? Again, that same natural, wife feeling, that where is it for me? And when Lord Shiva says, sorry, I myself got it this much, how can I, I could not preserve it in ecstasy. And Mother Parvati became so angry now. So earlier the destruction was to happen because of Lord Shiva's dance, ecstatic dance. And now the destruction is going to happen because of Mother Parvati's anger. Again, demigods go and approach Lord Vishnu now. They say, please do something, my dear Lord. Your one morsel of Mahaprasad is creating so much havoc in this grahasthashram, married life of Lord Shiva and Parvati. Of course, as I said, these are very great personalities. What they do is meant for teaching lessons to us and out of compassion for us. We need not take them as lightly as we take in our, daily life. So when Vishnu is approached, so when I was reading this pastime, I just remembered sometimes how we all, kind of quarrel, or kind of, are after each other, and kind of we are a little jealous or envious when somebody else gets a little more extra Mahaprasad of the spiritual master, or how we are, fighting to get one morsel or one remnant of the spiritual master's Mahaprasad. So something similar, So Lord Vishnu also, he comes to Mother Parvati then, and then he says, you need not be angry. I promise you to offer my entire Mahaprasad as Lord Jagannath. And that's how she ends up being as Vimala Devi in Jagannath Puri, right? And then she says, not only this, now this is, it's like, in Hindi we say, ungli diya to haath pakad liya. It's like, we are trying to extend hand and you pull us, you completely pull us out. So when Lord Vishnu says, I'll grant you this benediction that my prasad will be offered to you first as, Vimala Devi. Mother Vimala or Mother Parvati says, I just don't want to be selfish like Lord Shiva, the way he did not keep prasad for me. I don't want to honor this all by myself. I am worried about all the living entities in the material creation. What will happen to them? I want that this Mahaprasad of yours should be distributed, equally and freely to all the living entities of the material creation, irrespective of their caste, color, and creed. And they all should be given an opportunity to, get elevated to your lotus feet. And when Lord Vishnu hears this, he says Tathastu. And that's why we have this famous pritha or the ritual going on till now, where the prasad with the bhoga which is offered to Lord Jagannath first is being offered to Vimala Devi, and then only it becomes Mahaprasad, right? And then it is offered to all the other living entities. And then finally, we also see that Mother Parvati or Sati, she also acts as a destroyer. And that is the reason she actually assumes the different forms of Durga, which we hear as Chandi, Kali, Bhavani, and Mahishasura-Vardhini, right? Mysore also has this famous Mahishasura-Vardhini deity. So all these different, Bhairavi or, many other names are there. I don't remember all of them. But whenever the burden on the earth increases because of this demon, the same mother who maintains actually becomes the reason of our destruction. So she also ends up becoming the destroyer. So if we don't respect the nature that has created us, this very nature can become the reason of our destruction. So this is how Mother Parvati or Sati actually expands in this material world as the creator, maintainer, and destroyer. She's just not in the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam. She's so much in our day-to-day life as well, because she represents that motherly, energy, or that feminine energy of the Lord in this material world. In this material world, for the functioning of this material world, right? The feminine energy of Lord Krishna to nourish all of our spiritual life is Srimati Radharani, is Vrinda Devi, is Yoga Maya, right? But the same Yoga Maya, when she comes to the material world, she had to take the form of Mahamaya, because her role is different, as we said, as we already discussed about the competitive exams, etc., etc. But she also extends herself to become the creator in the form of Mother Prakriti, the maintainer we saw in the Vimala Devi pastime, and also the destroyer when she assumes different forms of the ghor forms of Mother Durga, or very ghastly forms of Mother Durga, are actually meant for those to be killed who are creating havoc in the same material world using her own ingredients. And the same Mother Parvati also ends up, when she sees that she had to perform such thankless tasks, keeping the living entities away from Krishna, where the entire Vedic literature is meant to take them closer to Krishna, and here she is the personality who is meant to keep them away from Krishna. It really disheartens her, because she's being it's like the job of Yamaduta, right, or the job of punishment. Which mother likes to punish the child, right? Or which government likes to have government likes to just one minute. I'm sorry, there was some noise, so I had to just close the window. So which mother would like to punish her own children? So that is a thankless task Mother Parvati has to do, to keeping away the living entities who are envious of Krishna, not coming closer to Krishna. And that is when she understands that this is her thankless task and such a difficult task like Yamaraj, she really repents very sincerely, or rather she's feeling very guilty sincerely for performing such a difficult task. And when she sees Lord Shiva once, dancing on the name of, while chanting the names of Lord Gauranga, she asks, what is this name other than Lord Ram that you are chanting and you are being ecstatic? So, and Lord Shiva explains to her that I can see the form of Lord Gauranga which is going to appear in our Navadvip. And this form is so magnanimous, the same Radha and Krishna, whose love is the treasure of the spiritual world, Golokera Premadhana, Harinama Sankirtana, right? So that same treasure of the spiritual world, this form of Gauranga, and the same Radha and Krishna in the form of Gauranga are going to distribute to the living entities of this material world. That Krishna Prem, which the entire creation is hankering for, or which is the goal of the entire creation, that would be awarded very freely and easily to the entire world, to this merciful, magnanimous incarnation of Lord Gauranga. And when I think of this great benediction of this age of Kali Yuga and this avatar of Kali Yuga, I become ecstatic. And again, he starts dancing. And Mother Parvati again has to, she feels, now what are you dancing for? And when she hears about this, great ecstatic pastime of Lord Gauranga's appearance, she also decides to come to this planet Earth, and she starts performing in Simantadweep she starts performing meditation or chanting the names of Lord Gauranga in Simantadweep, and Lord Gauranga, being very pleased with her, appears to her, gives her darshan, and Mother Parvati at that time, she says, it is written in the book by His Holiness Bhakti Purushottam Maharaj. Mother Parvati says, जैसे हम हिंदी में कहते हैं ना, मैं तो ठहरी अबला nari, in the sense I'm just a poor-hearted woman, getting carried away by things, the weaknesses of the heart, as we saw in the pastime of Sati. At the same time, I have criticized your Vaishnavas, right, in the pastime of Chitraketu, and still your Vaishnavas are so great, your devotees are so great. Still, that Chitraketu praised me and offered prayers to me, right? So that is the greatness of your Vaishnavas. I really want to appreciate your Vaishnavas, and I want to serve the Vaishnavas in this holy land of Navadvip, and I want to remain here, becoming dear to these Vaishnavas in this particular land of Navadvip. And how can I express my desire of watching your pastimes as Lord Gauranga in Navadvip, and Lord Vishnu or Krishna in the form of Gauranga? He says, Tathastu, may all your desires be fulfilled. Now, this is another very beautiful aspect. Although Mother Parvati, as we discussed, as a complete whole personality, she is exhibiting different emotions and different points of time, which is very natural for a conditioned soul, to go through in the course of this journey. She's expressing such emotions, and still the Lord is kind of undermining them. The Lord is kind of overseeing them and still ready to award all the benedictions if only we have a sincere desire to serve the Lord and to serve the Lord's devotees, to please the Lord and to please Lord's devotees, despite all our conditionings, all our weaknesses. If that sincere desire is there, and if we have the mercy of some Vaishnava in our life, like Mother Parvati always had the blessing of her husband, in the form of a good advice, in the form of that Mahaprasad, in the form of the advice right now as well, to chant the names of Lord Gauranga. So she took those words seriously, and she actually performed or perfected her life by coming to Simantadweep and taking the dust of Lord Gauranga in her pathings, and that's why that famous dweep became Simantadweep. So the same Sati becomes an instrument to have, a proud Maya in Navadweep, because Gauranga says that you will continue to live here as Simantadweep and as proud Maya next to Kshetrapal Mahadev, in Mayapur. So she's also as proud Maya residing in, Navadweep. So the same Sati became instrument in, become instrument of Shukadev Goswami's birth. There is also a reference to this where Lord Shiva was narrating Srimad Bhagavatam, and Mother Sati was listening to Srimad Bhagavatam, but in between, again, human side of these personalities. So she tend to, when the creation part came, she tend to kind of doze off, and Shuka was sitting and listening there, and he kept saying on behalf of Mother Sati. And when Lord Shiva saw this, he understood that that there's been something fishy. And as soon as he understood that Shuka has been nodding the head instead of Mother Parvati, he started running after this Shuka, and this Shuka went and took shelter in the body. When Dipika, or Vyasadev's wife, when she was yawning, and she was also listening Bhagavatam from Vyasadev, and as soon as she yawned, and this Shuka went and took shelter in her womb. Right, so here Mother Sati, she also became the instrument of Shuka's appearance. But now we cannot apply that. So we think sometimes that if this is human weakness, to fall asleep, and even if Mother Parvati can sleep, so why not we? I'll just end with this. Just give me a minute. So we may think like that. She's also sleeping, we're also sleeping. What is the difference? But it's not the case. As I said, these great personalities, whatever they do, it is a pastime. And when we do, or when we exhibit such weaknesses or conditionings, it is a time pass, right? So when Mother Parvati is kind of dozing off, it becomes an instrument for Shukadev Goswami to take birth, right? But when we doze off in Srimad Bhagavatam or in some lectures or while chanting, it is explained by one devotee that actually the parrots of our sins come and sit on our shoulder. It does not lead to anybody's birth. It does not lead to anybody's liberation and purification, right? It just is the reaction of our sinful actions, which actually come as parrots, and they also sit on our back, and that's why we are dozing off, because of our karmic reactions. So this is the difference between these great personalities, and this is the beautiful understanding of Mother Parvati, not only in the pages of Bhagavatam, where she depicts these natural human emotions of a mother or a lady. Even while going through them, she's teaching us lessons. But besides that, even outside of the Bhagavatam, all the forms that we see around us are nothing but her expansion and how much she is helping us to live in this material body so that we can use this body in the service of Lord Krishna. If she herself is meditating on, Lord Gauranga, if she herself is desiring to have the remnants of Lord Vishnu's Mahaprasad, why would she not want her children to do the same? So the very purpose of this creation is to use this entire existence, all the elements, all the creation, everything to be used back in the service of Krishna. And any living entity who's trying to do that sincerely, she would always try to support them. She may test it as Mahamaya, but as Yogamaya, she'll also support them. So she's a dual role that she always plays in the life of a devotee based on our intentions. So I'm really very thankful to all the Vaishnavas here. Please forgive me if I spoke anything beyond my realization. Anything good that you found is by the glory of my spiritual master, all the acharyas, and all of your blessings. And anything that does not suit our or your understanding, or anything wrong that I spoke which you think is because of my own shortcomings. So please forgive me for that. Thank you so much for your patience listening. I also want to thank Malini Mataji once again, all my seniors once again here in the group, all my friends, and all the other devotees for listening to me patiently. I'm sorry if I could not do proper justice. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. SATI DEVI.